Welcome to the Fantasy Football for Super Bowl week. Get excited for this matchup here between Kansas City, Philadelphia, two of the best teams all season long. And here we are going to look at some of the key factors in the game, how these teams are going to beat each other, where they have advantages and disadvantages of each other. And of course, we're going to look at how I did on my betting so far this season in these videos, which we can do right now before we get into it. In the wild card and the divisional round, I was 21-5 in the conference round, as expected with Mahomes' miraculous healing and Purdy going down immediately. I did not end up doing hot when I did that video. It was before a video came out of Mahomes looking pretty good on that ankle and everything. And of course, before Purdy went down. And so I had San Francisco winning and I had Cincinnati winning. So the betting ended up not going so well here. As far as San Francisco versus Philadelphia, the over-under of it was 45.5, and I said to bet the under, and I was correct. And the same will be for the Cincinnati KC game at 47.5 points. I said to bet the under. That was correct. I believe I have said to bet the under in every game that I have said to bet. And the under has worked throughout the playoffs. I think in every single matchup, at least every single one that I told you I would feel comfortable betting on the under on. So that's been insane. We'll see if I expect that to continue this week. Now, when it came to San Francisco versus Philly, of course, San Fran at plus 2.5. I got wrong because San Fran would have had to have, been closer than they were at the end of that. And of course, I had San Fran on the money line. I think that's what it's called. And that was wrong. Then I had Cincinnati plus 1 because I had them winning. That was wrong. Same with the money line. That was wrong. Although I would have called off that bet if possible once it was clear that Mahomes, just didn't really have a true high ankle sprain or that he's Superman. Don't know which case it is. Maybe it is really a high ankle sprain. Just doesn't quite seem like it. But either way, not so great. So I did get 2 bets right out of the 6, which left me with 23 and a 23-9 record now for the playoff betting. So still pretty solid. Just a rough week. We'll try to do better in the Super Bowl. I wouldn't say I have a high amount of confidence in my recommendations for the Super Bowl, but this is in agreement with how I feel. Whereas last week, I went against kind of what I had been thinking I was going to go as far as Philadelphia versus San Francisco goes. I thought Philadelphia is the best team in the NFL all season long, really. Then Cincinnati, KC, I kind of want to just go don't bet on this. So I didn't feel too comfortable with Cincinnati beating KC, but I felt comfortable enough. So that's probably about how I feel this week. Maybe, but a little bit more confident in Philadelphia than Cincinnati. The only true confidence for last week came from Philadelphia thinking Mahomes thinking that he was injured. Words are tough. So now let's look at this matchup that we have, this lovely matchup that we have with Philadelphia and Kansas City. The Vegas line here this week is 49.5 points, the over-under. And the line is set at Philadelphia 1.5. I did this on, I think, Monday of last week. Originally, the most of the homework for this video, and that has not. Maybe it's moved in between then and now, but as of Sunday evening, that is still where the line is at. So I didn't have to alter anything there. Philadelphia 1.5 minus Kansas City plus 1.5 there, making Philadelphia the implied total points winners of this game at 25.5 points, whereas Kansas City is expected to score 24 points. And so this week, if you've seen my other videos, I'm going a little bit more in depth, included a couple more stats that I hadn't been looking at in previous weeks, and kind of broke things down into categories of these labels up here at the top in terms of game control, the passing game, efficiency on the field, and mistakes. When it comes to the implied point total, we are going to award a half-point advantage to Philadelphia. So green shading, highlighting here, it's going to be worth a point. And the yellow's half a point. That just means it's very close, but there's enough of an advantage for me to consider it in a difference, I guess, in the two stats for the teams to consider it an advantage. If it's grayed out like it is here for the rushing yards per average, it's too close to call, so no points awarded there. So let's look at the aspect of controlling the ball, controlling the clock, those types of games, just overall game control, the rushing game for the most part. And in this matchup, in terms of the average plays per game, so what I've done is I have the stats from the defense and the offense of each of these matchups, found the average between them. So these are like in the average matchup of these two going up against each other. This is what we should expect. We should expect Philadelphia to run about 65 plays, whereas we should expect Kansas City to run about 63 plays in this matchup. And so that is a clear advantage there to Philadelphia to run more plays in this game, more chances to score. Of course, usually, if you're running more plays, maybe there's a little bit less efficiency, something like that going on, or maybe it's because your defense is just spectacular and gets offenses off the field quickly. Be a lot of things. We're going to award 1 point here to Philadelphia. Then, in terms of the clock management, the time of possession, holding the ball, there's another advantage here in favor of Philadelphia by about 30 seconds plus or minus on either side there. So there's usually most matchups when you take the averages at the time of possession end up pretty close to this, because I always actually see this when I do my quarterbacks. And a big difference is going to be like 33 to 27. So even somewhat smaller differences is pretty common. So this isn't too close to call, but it is just barely in favor of Philadelphia. Give them about a half point there in terms of controlling the clock. Then, as far as third down conversions go, chances to continue a drive and get the clock going in their favor. This is actually going to go in favor of Kansas City at 43.49% is how many times the percentage that we would expect them roughly to convert on third downs in this matchup. Whereas for Philadelphia, it's 42.99. Doesn't feel like a huge difference there. And just looking at some of the other factors, I came to the conclusion that this was just a narrow victory in favor of Kansas City for third down efficiency. Nonetheless, yeah, this should probably go in efficiency, but I don't know. Don't nitpick too much what groups they go in. In the end, we just add them all up. There's no weightedness here. But that ended up being a half point here in favor of Kansas City for the overall game control. And then as far as the rushing attack goes, we are expecting Philadelphia to run the ball more times in this game, have the advantage on the ground, roughly 28 and a half. So 29 carries is what we should expect in this matchup most weeks between these two teams. And for Kansas City, it would only be 25 attempts. So pretty big difference there. We're going to give the ground rushing attack here a whole point for Philadelphia. But in terms of like the efficiency, the yards per average there, the ability to maybe make things easier on the offense and contribute towards the clock game control here. Neither team gets the advantage here between how good the offenses are and the defenses. It came to 4.6 to 4.55. Way too close to call there, both. And so all in all, as far as the game control goes, we are going to put that in comfortably in favor of Philadelphia in this game. And of course, potentially hobbled Mahomes still doesn't help that at all. Now, when we look at the potential in the passing game, we are going to award a point here to Kansas City. As far as the attempts per game, on average with this matchup, we would expect them to have almost 2 more attempts per game compared to Philadelphia's 33.8, 35.05 was the average for Kansas City. So full point there, awarded to Kansas City. But when it comes to kind of the efficiency of the explosiveness of the passing game, that's kind of what we're looking at right here with the passing potential. Philadelphia does get a slight margin lead there with 6.95 average yards per attempt, whereas Kansas City is 6.65 average yards per attempt, given how the defenses also play against these offenses. And so this is probably like the only team that would be able to edge out Kansas City at all. And so this is going to be a half point rewarded to Philadelphia. However, all in all, which team do we think might be able to be a little bit more explosive, get more yards at the end of the day? Kansas City here gets a slight advantage overall in the passing potential explosiveness. Now, when we look at the efficiency of these two teams, in several different areas, starting off first with the passing completions per game. We're going to give a slight nod to Kansas City here again, 22.8 compared to 22.1 for Philly, so quite close all in all, half point awarded to Kansas City. Then when we look at the passing yards per completion, just like per attempt, we are going to give a slight margin of lead here. A half point gets awarded to Philadelphia. Then when we look at the passing touchdowns per game, we are going to award a half point to Kansas City. At 1.8 is how many passing touchdowns we would expect. So 2 really we could expect from both of these teams, but just a little bit more in favor of Kansas City. We're more confident in Kansas City getting a couple of passing touchdowns. But on the other side of that coin, in terms of rushing touchdowns, we're going to award a full point to Philadelphia. 1.35 average rushing touchdowns, what we would expect in this matchup, compared to less than 1 for Kansas City. And so that's a pretty big point there in favor of Philadelphia, and definitely helps to keep this category closer overall here. But then we're going to look at the penalties per game here. How smart are these teams? And this is going to go in favor of Kansas City. 5.25 penalties compared to 5.55. Although this 0.3 difference here is a small number, it was large enough from what I looked at to award a full point to Kansas City. And so in the efficiency department, we're going to give a point to Kansas City. So they've got the passing potential, the efficiency going in favor of Kansas City in this game. The only aspect really is going to be game control so far. We are expecting Philadelphia, which is huge for me. And of course, Vegas's prediction also gives a slight margin lead there. Now we're going to look at the things that really can alter a game, and that's going to be the big penalties. You can get only a couple of penalties, but sometimes small penalties don't hurt a team so much, but the big ones can really hurt a team. And so I just looked at the average penalty yards in a game, and it was a pretty big difference. Kansas City, they seem to have bad penalties when they do have penalties, huge yardage type of penalties, and it ended up making a big enough difference here between these two teams that got a full point awarded to Philadelphia. And then of course the ultimate mistake that you can make is turning the ball over, or maybe not getting enough turnovers. And this is also going to end up being awarded to Philadelphia at about 1.5 turnovers we could expect for them in this game. So 1 or 2, whereas Kansas City, we would really only expect them to get like 1. 2 points there in another big category, in my opinion, being awarded to Philadelphia. And so all in all, Philadelphia pretty much swept Kansas City here, 7 points to 3.5 points for KC. And so it's going to take a good passing game for Kansas City, an efficient one, an explosive one potentially, if their defense is struggling against Philadelphia, to win this matchup against a really good defense, and once again a potentially hobbled Mahomes, which really hurts. Yeah, I don't disagree with this at all. I do think this is how Philly wins the game. They create a turnover or two more, maybe one more turnover than their offense does on defense, or the offense plays a clean game and they get the one turnover in the game. Play smarter than Kansas City here, or at least when they get penalties, it's not those big drive. Maybe you give the other offense another attempt, or you get them set up really close to the goal line. It seems to be in favor of Philadelphia not being the team to do that. So I like that a lot here. And, even the touchdown department's very close, but it does end up going in favor of Philadelphia as far as just being the offense that gets more touchdowns per game, especially even when you include the defenses here. So, yeah, as much as we love Kansas City and know how great Mahomes is, he doesn't have the same kind of weapons as Jalen Hurts does. And so unless both of these quarterbacks didn't necessarily put on some sort of show last week in the playoffs, that could be an equalizer if it comes down to the defenses. But then once again, I think it's Philadelphia that has the better defense. I do like KC's defense. We are going to see they're a little bit more banged up than Philadelphia, and they are on offense too. So another big factor. As far as Kansas City injuries go, We all know about the wide receiver injury. It looks like Kadarius Toney. To me, that looked like it was like a hamstring thing again. I don't know that he'll be playing. Mecole Hardman's already been essentially ruled out. He is doubtful as of like Tuesday of last week. And Juju Smith-Schuster's banged up. Not a guarantee either. And this is a wide receiving core that's struggled to help this team win games most weeks. They haven't really totally gotten it together. That's where guys like Jerick McKinnon have come in and really helped to lift this offense and get them over the hump without having to only rely on Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce has had to, he's great, but he's had to. I think the hope was with this offense to take some of the weight off of Kelsey's shoulders and maybe open things up for him a little bit more, but just be more efficient and have to do less work, less putting the back on their team between him and Mahomes. But it is what it is. So another concern for a team that's not great at this position. Then on the defensive side of the ball, two guys who I really love and have played. As far as I'm aware, I know L'Jarius Sneed has played really well for Kansas City, and as far as I'm aware, they would be pretty darn happy with Willie Gay's play as well. So L'Jarius Sneed and Willie Gay are questionable. I believe both of them could come back, but maybe they'll be banged up. And these are fast guys, so if they're banged up in the lower legs or anything like that, could just take them off of their game by a little bit. Wouldn't help. So the healthier team is definitely going to be Philadelphia coming into this game. The only injury that they really had, notable at least, coming into the out of last week's game was a big one here at left guard, Landon Dickerson. However, it's already expected that he's going to be able to play in the Super Bowl. So, he might be a little bit hobbled for that. That would not be helpful against a team that has some speed and can get at a quarterback when they really, really want to. That could hurt Philadelphia, but it's huge that he's going to be healthy enough to play. That's for sure. And so now I've missed out on saying this at the top for the betting. As far as this game goes, for the over-under, which was set at 49.5 points, I'm going to go for the over. I am expecting this to turn into a shootout despite some of the quarterback play concerns and health concerns to Kansas City guys. I think it's going to be an exciting Super Bowl one way or another, and usually that involves some points being scored. So I'm going to go with the over at 49.5 points. Now it's time for my prediction for the game, and I have Philadelphia winning 27-24. Quite a close game. Yeah, that's my prediction. Not much else I can say about that. So what are some of the X factors here? We have coaching. Saw Andy Reid's decision last week to punt late ended up working out, but looked a lot to me like decisions that he's made in the past that have cost him big playoff games, maybe Super Bowls. Can't remember. Yeah, some Super Bowls with Philadelphia, and so I thought that was a coaching decision that could easily have backfired. But that's what I remember feeling. I was a little bit surprised that they weren't going for it and they were going to be giving the ball back to Cincinnati in a position to win the game. I don't think that was the smartest play in the world. Another X factor here coming down to those penalties. I talked about that a little bit already. Playing smart. Philadelphia has been a pretty darn smart team overall on defense, and I think that that's going to be a huge X factor if they can continue to do that. And Kansas City can avoid doing that. That will definitely help to keep this game just a little bit closer, prevent just giving layups to Philadelphia's offense, giving them the ball at the 2-yard line or something. A penalty against A.J. Brown is one of the big ones you're going to have to worry about. Another thing for Kansas City would be controlling the ball through the air. Do you think that that's where they're going to have to control the ball compared to on the ground? And like I said, I think it was in this video, I did like what I saw last week a little bit with getting Isaiah Pacheco involved there in the passing game, some of the screen game, to offset the running attack. So if they can do more of that, huge. Mahomes' ankle comes into play here. Makes it harder on the offense when Mahomes can't be running around. If he can be running around, that will be a huge thing. So his ankle health goes a long ways towards making this just a little bit easier to beat Philadelphia. And that's pretty obvious. So my main X factor here is going to be the coaching, the play calling from Philadelphia, and the decision making from Andy Reid, the time clock management, the big decisions down the stretch of whether to go for it or not, or whether to play it safe, those types of things, he tends to err on the side of playing it safe usually. Sometimes you got to go for it in order to win it all. So that's what I think of the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a good one. I'm hoping for even more points than 27-24. I usually like defensive matchups, but in a game like this, maybe give me a couple defensive touchdowns along the way too, or just make things crazy. I don't care. Should be a good one. Looking forward to these teams laying it all out. Hopefully, those quarterbacks are healthy and have good games, because that's also going to be a big factor here. So, thank you very much for watching this video. Leave a comment, do those YouTubey things if you want. It's definitely very much appreciated. Check out my video if you like betting. I have a video out there for DFS DK betting. And if you're seeing this, you haven't seen that yet, you can let me know in this video, or you can let me know on that video if you decide to go watch it. Do you want to do some prop bets with me? Do you want to build a snowman? If so, if I see several people saying they'd be down, I was thinking like Friday night, but if that's something where that doesn't work, like Thursday night, Saturday night works better, let me know too there. Other than that, thank you very much. Enjoy the Super Bowl. It should be a good one. Peace out.